Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening from. Welcome to the Change Management Simplified podcast, where we will explain and discuss what change management is really about, using real examples alongside principles of change management based on our experiences on projects, transformations, change initiatives, and of course, the home experiences as well. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Change Management Simplified podcast. What can I say? Thank you for coming back to listen. My Spotify listeners, if the numbers growing, please continue to follow, to share, and also subscribe. This just helps me motivate me, but also encourages me to do this because at the moment I'm just doing it as a hobby, so I'm not really getting any revenues from it at all just yet. Um, Secondly, my YouTube subscribers also please continue to listen and subscribe and share. Thank you for coming back to listen to this. Now, in today's episode, it's all about leadership versus management. Now, this came up. This didn't come up as a question, but I was talking to a friend of mine who wants to move from a managerial position and then in about a year or two move into a leadership position. And as I was talking to them, it made me reflect on the fact that we have this scenario a lot, and it's a challenge for those managers who want to move or progress into a leadership role to shake off that perception from their boss, for them to be acknowledged and notice that they're able to take the next step up to become good leaders or great leaders and progress through the company. And therefore, that made me do this episode. And the question we have at hand is Ah, and the other thing, someone did point out to me a couple of days ago that I keep saying we, but actually it's really me. The question that I have at hand today is, what is the difference between leadership and management? This is actually a very interesting topic or interesting question because a lot of us get confused about it. And I'll put myself into that bracket as well because when I started to think about progressing through my career from managerial to leadership, or in actually the roles that I've done in program management or project management or transformation lead, even a change management role, I have to do both the management aspect side of it, but also the leadership side of it. Because on the other hand, the team's looking to me to provide solutions based on the vision, but also on the build the vision for the change and the program, as well as how we get there. But then I have the other piece of actually managing them to be able for us to accomplish that vision. So this is really based on my experience, but also my observations on working on projects, but also team members that I've worked with and leaders that I now have worked with who've transitioned from management to leadership, or even those that I'm still working with as well. So first and foremost, you need to think about leadership. What is leadership about? Leadership is done by leaders. And always, leaders will always think about doing the right thing. What is the vision? What can they put in place to benefit the company as a whole? Or for example, as a parent, what do you do to make your home secure and safe for everyone to be able to have the needs that they actually, the basic needs that everyone needs in the home? The vision is, or as a parent, as a leader, you get a job to make sure you bring back enough income to cater for all those needs. As a leader, the vision is to expand your business, and therefore you go out, you have a vision, you network, you develop business, and use your influence to grow this business. So really, as a leader, you're a problem solver. And even when something is not on your agenda, I'm going to use a classic example. I'm going to use probably women or parents, mothers. I would say pop in that bracket because I can relate to that, and also because I see a lot of my friends, a lot of my family members doing this a lot. You go into a supermarket or you go into a shops. You do your normal daily shopping, and somehow you pass a Clark's Shoe Shop, and I'm not an affiliate to Clark's Shoe Shop. However, if Clark's Shoe Shop wants to affiliate with me, because I actually do like their shoes, um, and also because they were my first employers. However, that's not the point. You walk past a Clark's Shoe Shop, and they've got a shoe sale. Within that shoe sale, they've got the school shoes or the kids' shoe sales, the shoes on sale as well. As parents, you know how pricey the class shoes are. However, we also know the quality, that they do have great quality for shoes, especially school shoes. And when you do walk past that shop and you see the shoe sale and you see the size for your child during the school holidays, they're not in school yet, you will go and buy that shoe just to buy it at half price. So but you know the vision is for your child to wear it when they go back to school. They would have a good quality shoe that will last for at least a good period of time while they're in school or during the term. Unlike you waiting until actual the shoe I would say the school shoe shopping phase is or month is, which is usually a week or two before the kids go back to school. And then you go back rushing to go look for school shoes at the usual normal, double the price, kind of fee. So this is you thinking ahead. You see something and you're like, actually, I will need that in a few months' time. Let me get it at a reasonable price. They should be fitting my child by that time. They will grow into them. That's one of, as a parent, that's you as a leader. I'm looking ahead in that vision. So, as you see, as I've mentioned or alluded to in my explanation, a leader has a vision. They're visionary. They always think ahead. They're always a step ahead of the team. They're strategic in the way they think. They approach certain scenarios. Using the shoe shop as an example, or shoe shopping in Clark's, the strategy was like, there's this opportunity. Let me buy this shoe at half price. However, the strategy is to get my child to wear it just before to wear it to go to school in 6 weeks' time when they need to. It should be fitting them. Influence. They also have influence. Sometimes you go into the shoe shop without your child. These days, the kids of these days are too opinionated and want to be involved in deciding what shoes they should wear. Now, if the child is not with you on that day, yes, consider what type of style they might be looking at and the age group. However, at the end of the day, you want to buy a shoe that's going to be comfortable and good for their feet because their feet are still growing. As you can tell, I did work in shoes. I did work in Clark's shoe shop. They trained me on all these things. So you need to be able to influence your child to buy this shoe. We used to actually get a lot of that. You get a parent who wants a particular shoe for their child and the child doesn't like it, and they whisper to you to say, can you please help me get these shoes because they won't take them if I say they should take them. So you work on your influence score trying to get this child to wear these shoes, and also of course you throw in the fact that you'll find your friends wearing them at school anyway, so you won't be the only one, and they're comfortable. The other thing you have to be inspiring, taking away from an inspiration example. How do you inspire a child to wear a school shoe that you do? It's very difficult. However, I'm going to switch to a more inspiring leader that I thought was inspiring, which is Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama, like it or not, he didn't. I'm not saying he's the best leader out there, but to me, one of the best leaders, inspiring leaders. There's the way this dude just spoke and articulated his message to the point that you were inspired by what he was doing. For example, when he introduced or was trying to introduce the Obamacare, which was um, healthcare, affordable healthcare for majority of or within the US. Yes, the other half didn't like it, the other half liked it. However, the vision was that they increase the population for people to be able to afford healthcare, even for those who had pre-existing conditions. Because worst case scenario is for you to be sick with a pre-existing condition and you have to pay a ridiculous amount for you to be covered for healthcare. You're already not working, you're already sick, and then also now they're asking for extra premium. So it was that vision of let's try and find a way of providing affordable healthcare, even for those with pre-existing conditions. So at least majority are covered, unlike what we have now, where a huge number of people are still struggling to provide for their healthcare. Using the same example, empathy. What Obama did actually in this scenario was actually put himself in those people struggling with healthcare issues, you know, and this is about, I would say, in the using emotional intelligence. So if you go back to episodes 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I focused on emotional intelligence using Daniel Goleman's philosophy on emotional intelligence. He's the grandfather of this topic. Um, and whereby you are supposed to put yourself in those around your shoes, to be able to relate, to be able to come up with a strategy or solution that could resolve majority of the problems, but also to mitigate change resistance. And he did that. Yes, there was change resistance from the opponents. However, there was political games in here. It was about power and influence, but eventually he got it through by strategizing, by influencing the population, the wider population, to say, you need this, this is good for you, as much as he was facing challenging obstacles within the Senate to try and push it through. Eventually, the Senate crumbled and they did agree to pushing through this Obamacare bill, which now has been implemented and is supporting a lot of people. So that's what really a leader is about. You need to think ahead and think about the future as a whole. Now, managers or management. Management is done by managers, and managers actually focus on doing things right. And they do this by solving and making the existing process or the system to work as expected. And in this scenario, maybe at work, you'll find managers working through deliverables that they need to produce for the quarterly runs. However, you'll find the CFO is focused on the overall budgeting aspect side of it, the growth of the business, how we're going to grow this business. But he's depending on their managers or the controllers to manage the day-to-day activities of the business. As I've mentioned, planning the daily activities, resource planning, hiring and firing, as well as managing teams. You might actually say on this point that um, leaders as well do hire and fire. Yes, they do, depending on the point, depending on what the scenario is, but most of it is done by the managers because they're the ones who work with the different individuals on the day-to-day basis, so they have that power to do so. Leaders don't usually have power to fire someone, or sometimes to fire and hire someone. There's usually a committee at that level who would do that decision or make those decisions at a collective level. However, of course, with their direct reports, who are the managers be underneath them, they would have to switch their mindset into a managerial perspective. Budgeting and reporting, as I've mentioned, they'll also do the controlling to ensure that they're mitigating the risks of failure of the activities, because if the day-to-day activities fail, that means the overall vision and the company will end up failing. Um, and then the production of the deliverables and the service that they're supposed to produce or to offer to individuals or the products. So when you based on this, as you can see, the leader focuses on the future and the long-term success of the business. They self-lead to ensure the success of the company. But when I say self-lead, they have to be leaders themselves. They have to lead themselves before they can lead others. And this is again going back to applying emotional intelligence of self-awareness, self-management. You have to know what you need to do. You have to know what your actions means to others for you to be able to actually recognize the emotions and the activities that you have to put in place to lead them through to success. You cast the vision. Leaders, it's your responsibilities to cast that vision, maintain it, make it clear so that people can follow and achieve it properly. You also have to transform leaders. They're there to transform businesses or organizations. So they'll most likely, actually not most likely, they will always take risks where they see opportunities, because for them they have this appetite to grow, to develop, to do better, to do the right thing for the better future, for the greater good. Um, how do they do this? Through their power. They're very powerful in terms of the network that's around them. The way they talk is very very influential. And I'll use Obama as an example. He's very influential in the way he talks, the way he articulates his message. You kind of think you feel like this dude feels my pain, I will follow his vision and I'll work with him. He's persuasive, or the leaders, you should be persuasive. This is a skill that you have to learn. Do not underestimate the power of persuasion, of influence. If you don't have this soft skill set, please call me. I'm happy to help you out. Or ask me a question and I'll do a scenario around it. Or go for some training where you can learn these soft skills. um, Lead from the front, as I mentioned before. Be responsible and accountable. You're accountable for the actions, you're accountable for the decisions. Leaders do not run away from their decisions. Those who do are cowards, and those are still managers or insecure leaders who just hide behind, they just hide behind the scenes, but not strong enough or confident enough to admit when they're wrong. Leaders do not run away from decisions that they've done incorrectly. They'll put their hand up to say this was wrong, but they'll quickly try and come up with a solution and not throw other people under the bus. Managers or management is about focusing on the day-to-day running of the business. As I mentioned, they're there to resolve the day-to-day obstacles and managing the teams to be able to deliver the outputs, the deliverables required at the end of the quarter. For example, submitting the regulatory returns to the regulator, such activities, all to meet the production or the sales targets for the quarter or for the month. um, then ensure that we have enough resources within the business to be able to deliver what we need. As we said, resource planning. They're responsible for the administration of the business, as I said, making sure we submit the regulatory returns in, at the right time, or within, in time, to make sure we don't get penalties and be able to exist and still be able to do business. Um, their communication is actually usually very focused, very directional, and procedural. And this is because they've got teams underneath them that they need to break these communications or directions to be able to be followed and to be executed clearly and efficiently as well as effectively. They also follow the leader's vision, the leader's instructions. They follow the objective, the overall objectives, the overall strategy. Whatever they do has to be in line or in alignment of the vision, the alignment, and the objectives. So it's important that the leader makes these three elements clear from the get-go. The worst case scenario you can have for a manager is when a leader is undecisive, unclear about the vision, and doesn't know the objective, yet alone have a high level strategy of how to execute this vision. So it's important that the leader is very clear and very decisive, and also able and available to provide guidance and clarity when needed to the managers. And when you actually look at all these elements, you actually realize that the both the leaders and the managers, or leadership and management, cannot exist in isolation. They both have to work interchangeably together in parallel. So a leader cannot lead or do their role um, effectively without having managers underneath them to execute the day-to-day activities to help them meet that vision. Vice versa, the manager cannot do their job if the leader hasn't placed or cast a vision that's clear enough for them to be able to break down the activities that need to be performed to be able to meet that vision. And I'm hoping that helps, at least provide clarity between leadership or leaders versus management and managers. For the next episode, we will be actually reverting back to, I believe it's episode 12, where we spoke about difficult stakeholders. And I mentioned the internal audit team being a very difficult and the non-value add function on transformation projects. I did have a listener reach out to me to sound a bit harsh. So I am going to have an interview with them to have a discussion, for them to convince us, and I'm going to say us because you, the listeners as well, you're coming back listening to this, the value of the internal audit function on any transformation project, because I still struggle. I still don't know what they do. I've tried to invite them on projects, but they don't like to play ball, but they like coming back to with a checklist of controls halfway through the project, for them to I don't know, to write a report and to justify the existence within the functions. And I'm not saying the internal audit team is not value add. I'm just questioning the value that they add on a transition or on a transformation project or a change project, because we do need their expertise, but they're never around to do that. And on that note, thank you for listening. Hope this was useful, and we will see you next week. Please don't forget to subscribe, to follow, and to like, and to add a comment to help me know whether this is all helpful to you. Thank you very much. If you find this podcast beneficial or interesting, please press follow, like, or subscribe. Lastly, and of course, don't forget to spread the word by sharing. Thank you for listening.